Mm. Hi, my name is Cheryl Camarillo. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I decided to get on here so we could talk a little bit about betrayal trauma and how to help the partners of people that are struggling um, to support their husbands or wives that, or boyfriends or girlfriends that are going outside of the relationship. Mhm. Mhm. I guess I will just start with a little bit of background about myself. Um, I am actually a therapist since the 90s. I've been doing this for a while, and I've worked a lot with child protective services, kids and families. I've worked with wounded warriors, military, veterans suffering with PTSD, worked in psychiatric facilities, and did a lot of work in the emergency rooms, evaluating people. And I think the most recent two things that I've been doing is actually in-home counseling for kids in foster care or preparing for adoption, as well as doing some employee assistance program work. But my number one favorite thing to do is working in private practice. I have a private practice that is focused specifically on trauma and also in sex addiction and betrayal trauma. So, in terms of trauma, it could be anything that a person struggled with um, in their present. It could be small things that really stick and cause you to be stuck in moving forward, or it could be big events. Maybe some childhood trauma, or maybe it's something as simple as losing a best friend, or something more complicated like workplace toxic situations. So I've a variety of tools that I use that help me when I'm trying to work with people with trauma. I've done just a lot of training in the areas of um, somatic experiencing, EMDR, accelerated resolution therapy. I've had some training in couples work. I just completed a certification in sex addiction. I'm currently working on the ending part of a certification for helping in the area of sex therapy. I also have some training in gaming and internet addiction. My Probably one of the areas or two areas that I focus specifically in are the sex addiction, um, and then the partners of people with sex addiction. I'm hoping that by people coming on to this channel, they'll get a chance to ask me questions. I'm not going to be doing counseling. I'm just mostly looking for opportunities to educate and give people guidance. I think one of the things that's most overwhelming when I'm talking to people for the first time is for the person that's got the sex addiction issue. They will either say, "I don't know whether I am or not, but I know I need some help." And so then we go through a thorough assessment during their first session just to try to understand like what the patterns of behavior are and what the complications might be and whether or not this is actually truly a form of compulsive sexual behavior. Um, I also help with the partners. Sometimes it's the spouses or the girlfriends or boyfriends of the people that have had, um, have been cheated on. They will, call and see if there's anything I can tell them about trying to get help for their partners. Um, Usually there's so much going on, and there's just this sense of my life has been turned upside down, and I don't know what I need to do in order to get, um, you know, myself and my partner moving forward. Um, there's just so much fear about all of the changes that are going to happen, and just a little bit of support and guidance, reassurance over that first phone call seems to help a lot. Then, once you get to attend your first assessment with a therapist over a longer time period, you will get an opportunity to kind of describe like what some of your concerns are, establish or set up your goals for counseling. What else? I think mostly just being able to state your story so that someone else can hear you and hopefully not feel like you're being judged when you're discussing some of the things that you do is an important piece of starting counseling. I'm going to be all over the place. I know I'm going to in the future have more specific topics that we're going to talk about. I just wanted to really make sure that if someone's feeling stuck and they just don't know what to do, you have to actually dig around, do research. I have the women who call in about their husbands or their boyfriends have studied everything there is to know out there about how to take care of this problem. Um, so there's some women that are like over invested and very determined to get this problem taken care of. And so they will do the research into what types of counselors, what types of treatment, do they need to go somewhere? Do they need to do they need to do y'all need to do couples counseling? Um, how is this going to affect the kids? Do the kids need counseling because they found out some of the behaviors that are, being displayed by your partner? Mm, Some of the other things that they research are, statistics like what percentage of people that seek treatment for sex addiction actually end up changing their behavior and not relapsing. Um, I think the other piece that people, do research on is determining if you do choose a counselor, who would make a good fit who would be somebody that your partner would be able to continue working with, or who would be a person that you would be able to work with if you were the partner that experienced the betrayal. Um, I'm getting ready to set up a program, 8 weeks of uh, groups regarding betrayal trauma. So, most of the people that are going to be starting in that section are females. If I do find some males that are struggling with betrayal trauma, I will look at possibly setting up a separate type of group for them. There's different dynamics about cheating and breaking of trust. Um, I mean, some of it's all the same, but sometimes um, how the situations have started and what seems to be going on is different. So. What are all these dots down here? Okay. Oh, I guess that's volume, huh? All right. What else do we have down here? I guess that's timeline. Hmm. Is there anybody out there? I guess the first thing I need to do is work out this lighting. It's not working for me. So, like you can see all the particles. Maybe I need a better camera. I did actually buy a better camera. I just haven't put it up here. I guess that doesn't help, huh? Um, where am I from? I'm actually here in San Antonio, Texas. It's Sunday, February the 5th. We just had a wonderful weather change or shift last week. It got really cold, got fairly icy. Um, lots of trees got broken apart. On Wednesday when we got up, when you drove around, you could just see like all of the tree branches were covered in ice, so it looked like we were in a crystal palace. Just as all the way down the street, crystal trees. So, um, and then there was just concern that there would be problems traveling on the roads, but I think that they had prepared them early enough that it wasn't such a big problem. And then a lot of places closed. They ended up, um, closing some of these places so that the traffic was very light in the morning, and it was really easy to go from point A to point B. So, unfortunately, I had to go to one of my consultation locations. So, I did recently set up a men's group. I started with 4 individuals, and I'm continuing to expand that. And I'm hoping to actually do a lot more groups. Right now, the one group that is for the males meets every Thursday from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, and that's a good time because hopefully if they have young children, they've already put them to bed. If they have older children, um, they won't have to worry about what's going on with them until after they finish group. It's considered all confidential. I actually only picked 10 people that could come into any of my groups. And since this was one of my first ones, the people, most of them came from my own private practice. So they've already been seeing me and working on their issues and already know what some of the steps are that go into, um, addressing addiction issues. So, um, there's a variety of things that I encourage them to do. And then um, the best part probably of doing the group with men is that they actually have some place to come and say, I'm struggling at home, because when they try to talk about those kinds of things in the home, they cause a lot of damage there. So usually their partners are not wanting to hear that. There's some partners, though, that kind of say, well, I understand where this behavior developed from. So I'm going to support them and I'm going to listen to anything they have to say. So those ultimately are the types of relationships, if you're going to continue to remain together in the relationship, is that ultimate sense of communication that happens. It's been broken by all the secret keeping, and now it's really important to reestablish a sense of trust, security, safety in the relationship. And yeah, but I enjoy the group. I really don't have to do much except to introduce a few topics, and then various people get a chance to talk about how they interpret maybe the piece of information, and share ways that they've learned to address different problems. So I think one of the things I plan to do when I continue these Sunday evening things is I want to do a session on resiliency. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that when bad things happen, if you stay focused and work a plan to try to make a shift or a change in a positive way, that you can actually become resilient, meaning that you figure out how to solve the problem, and then you're also on the ball, able to kind of see when things are coming your way so that you can kind of address those. I also want to do something in the area of self care planning. I really truly believe that self care is a foundation that needs to get set for a lot of people when they first start working on any kind of mental health issue or addiction. And once they've set their foundation, and they've kind of gone through and did like a sexual history of themselves, a history of how their families, represented or presented with relationships. I also like to get information about like interactions and friendships and um, things like that. I will go back and say regarding self-care that I really look at 5 areas when we set up that self-care plan. The first one is, physical. The second one is emotional self-care. There's mental self-care. There's social self-care, and then there's spiritual self-care. So those 5 areas we talk about extensively, and I like to educate regarding the importance of what those different categories, how they contribute to balance for a person. And then once we have those expectations kind of set there, I will check in every week to say, how are things going with your self care plan? Have you been able to take care of yourself? I also do a lot of education in addiction cycles, and majority of it is specifically regarding porn and sex addiction. um, I do a significant portion of the discussion around, impacts of behavior on a partner. So if you're the person that's, stepped outside of the marriage or the relationship and is, cheating, there's an impact to your partner, and you've learned to kind of turn that off because you're focused on getting your needs met with your behavior, whereas the partner's kind of left there standing and not really sure, where they stand and what's happened. And there's so many questions that a person has about themselves when they find out that their partner is straying. um, so we do education in that area. I love to make sure that there's couples counseling going on, because there's a lot of stress and struggle between the two, like trying to figure out, like, can I speak openly, or is that going to cause my partner, who I have already hurt, more pain? And then also for the partner being able to say, well, do I need to be more attentive? Do I need to change my behaviors? Can I even express how I feel? Because I might cause him to seek out the, the behavior that's causing us to be in counseling in the first place. So yeah, I encourage communication on that level. I also like to talk to my clients about their impact of their behavior on their kids. People have no idea how watching what the adults are doing in their relationships impacts what they choose to do in their relationships when they get older. Some will embrace that and say, if it's not a healthy relationship, I expect that I should also be in an unhealthy relationship. Other times, people will say, that's just the way a relationship is, and they won't know that there's something better. And then there's some people that say, I plan to have the complete opposite. I want a partner. I want somebody I can trust. I want to feel safe. I want to feel secure. So, so that's the other side. So, mm, I think a lot of times kids also are very confused because they see the adults struggling, and at that point, maybe they've had this viewpoint or this vision that the adults know the answers to everything, and then they see this huge problem going on, and it kind of causes them to question, like, what is this about? What's happening? Why is this happening? For younger kids, if there's a separation, they won't have any idea that the reason that mom disappeared or dad disappeared was because of issues going on in their relationship. Little kids have a tendency to have like magical thinking. So they'll say, if I was only gooder, if I had great behavior, if I was making straight A's, if I wouldn't have been fighting with my little brother all the time, my dad wouldn't have left or my mom wouldn't have left. So I really try to focus in on helping parents reconnect with their children and demonstrate healthy attachments. So, um, yeah, um, I think the other thing is, being able to problem solve. Um, if you have an addiction, a lot of times you are constantly being hit with triggers. The number one thing to do is take care of whatever you notice seems to be in place anytime you have felt that you needed to go and engage in the behaviors that got you into counseling. So, for one of the men that I was counseling, he said that he couldn't help it. He could mention, he could, count the number of therapists, I mean, the number of massage parlors that were located between his house and my counseling office. So it's things like that. So let's see here. I'm going to put this on an end.